can't say I regret, but I couldn't mention them.
And they were setting it all up in this crowd, and then you're like, what the hell? And there's a bank robbery. It doesn't mean that they're absolutely useless, but they may have slipped up once on something. Gary Oldman has built a reputation as one of the most transformative actors in cinema. When he takes on a role, he doesn't just play a character, he becomes them completely. Whether portraying Sid Vicious, Lee Harvey Oswald, Dracula, or Winston Churchill, audiences don't see Gary Oldman on screen. They see the character so fully realised that the actor himself seems to disappear entirely. This level of transformation demands total commitment, fearless risk-taking, and a willingness to make bold choices. Given Oldman's dedication to authentic performance, it makes sense that he would have strong opinions about films where actors take the opposite approach. He dislikes when performers play it safe, rely on technical tricks instead of emotional truth, or let makeup and prosthetics substitute for the internal work that creates genuine character. To understand what Oldman dislikes in film performances, we need to understand his philosophy about acting. He has no patience for laziness disguised as craft. He objects when actors merely impersonate rather than truly inhabit their roles. He's frustrated when performers chase awards instead of honesty, or hide behind accents and makeup without discovering the soul beneath the surface details. Throughout his career, Oldman has made dangerous choices that could have backfired. He's played monsters, addicts, and deeply flawed individuals without trying to make audiences like him. The films that represent everything he opposes share common traits. They choose safety over risk, prioritize awards, campaigns over artistic integrity, and allow actors to coast on surface level mimicry while critics mistakenly praise it as genuine transformation. Bohemian Rhapsody from 2018 earned Rami Malek an Academy Award for his portrayal of Freddie Mercury. Malek studied Mercury's movements with obsessive detail, perfected the distinctive overbite and posture, and the Live Aid recreation sequence was technically impressive. However, from Oldman's perspective, this represents impersonation at its most polished yet emotionally empty. The issue with Malek's performance is that it focuses entirely on externals. The voice, the walk, the mannerisms, everything is technically accurate, but lacks emotional depth. Malek concentrates so intensely on replicating Mercury's physical characteristics that he never captures the vulnerability, pain, and complexity of who Freddie actually was as a person. The result resembles a greatest hits compilation of recognizable moments without authentic humanity connecting them. Oldman understands the difference because he's experienced it firsthand. When he portrayed Sid Vicious in Sid and Nancy, he didn't simply copy Sid's appearance. He found the desperate, damaged young man beneath the punk rock exterior. When playing Joe Orton in Prick Up Your Ears, he captured the sexuality, wit, and self-destructive tendencies that defined Orton's character. These weren't mere impersonations. They were complete inhabitations that made audiences believe they were watching real people rather than actors performing research. The Iron Lady from 2011 brought Meryl Streep her third Oscar for playing Margaret Thatcher. The makeup was stunning, the accent was flawless, and the physical transformation was remarkable. Yet Oldman saw exactly what was absent, an actual human being underneath all that technical expertise. This exemplifies what happens when an actor depends on prosthetics to handle the emotional work. Oldman's criticism of the Iron Lady centers on how Streep focuses so intently on perfecting Thatcher's voice and posture that she never discovers who Thatcher truly was. The film presents an excellent impersonation of a political figure, but never reveals the complicated woman who profoundly divided a nation. Everything remains on the surface. The makeup impresses, the vocal work is precise, but where's the actual person? When Oldman played Winston Churchill in Darkest Hour, he also wore prosthetics and studied the voice and physicality. However, beneath all that technical work, he found Churchill's feared doubt.
and desperation during Britain's most challenging period. The makeup served the performance rather than replacing it. Audiences saw Churchill's humanity through the transformation, not just the transformation by itself. What frustrates Oldman is how critics respond to such work. Reviewers praise technical achievement as if technique alone constitutes great acting. But genuine acting requires more than mimicry. It demands discovering the psychology, vulnerability, and specific humanity of the person being portrayed. The Iron Lady offers impersonation without illumination, showing what Thatcher looked and sounded like without revealing who she actually was. First Man from 2018 contained everything the Academy typically celebrates: historical importance, technical brilliance, and a serious actor doing serious work. Ryan Gosling played Neil Armstrong with quiet intensity and minimal dialogue. Oldman saw a film that mistakes withholding emotion for depth and confuses silence for complexity while prioritizing awards, friendly restraint over authentic human behavior. What bothers Oldman about this performance is that Gosling portrays Armstrong as nearly emotionless. The character displays almost no emotional range. His son dies and he barely reacts. He travels to the moon and shows minimal wonder. He's so internalized that there's nothing substantial to internalize. Director Damien Chazelle and Gosling apparently decided that still waters run deep, which meant playing Armstrong as essentially a blank slate and presenting that as profound. Oldman knows how to play internalized characters. His performance in Tinker Tyler Soldier Spy demonstrates deliberate restraint. George Smiley is someone who reveals nothing. Yet underneath that control, audiences sense the intelligence working, the pain of betrayal, and the exhaustion of a life spent in shadows. Oldman provides enough insight to help viewers understand what Smiley is holding back. Gosling provides nothing and expects audiences to find it meaningful. Green Book won Best Picture in 2018 by telling a straightforward story about racism. A racist Italian driver learns to become less racist by chauffeuring a black pianist through the South. They develop a friendship, and racism is apparently resolved through exposure and shared meals. Oldman views this as everything wrong with Hollywood's approach to complex subjects. It simplifies what should remain complicated and offers easy redemption where none exists in reality. What Oldman dislikes about this film is how Viggo Mortensen plays Tony Lip as a likable bigot. The movie acknowledges his racism just enough to demonstrate his growth beyond it. By the conclusion, he's learned his lesson and everyone embraces. The film treats centuries of systemic oppression as individual prejudice that vanishes through personal connection. That's not how racism actually functions, but it's how white audiences want to believe racism works. Oldman has built his career playing complicated villains and morally ambiguous characters. In Leon, Norman Stansfield is terrifying yet also pathetic and damaged. In True Romance, Drexel Spivey is monstrous but somehow still recognizably human. Oldman never simplifies his characters into easily digestible lessons. He finds the contradictions and lives within them. Green Book does the opposite, reducing everything to simple answers. Hacksaw Ridge from 2016 tells the true story of Desmond Doss. A conscientious objector who became a war hero, Mel Gibson directed it as religious propaganda disguised as a war film. Andrew Garfield plays Doss as a simple, pure-hearted believer without any doubt or complexity. Oldman sees this as one of the most dishonest portrayals of heroism in modern cinema because real people aren't saints and real heroes have darkness within them. The problem is that Gibson presents Doss as nearly Christ, like he never wavers or questions. He faces horrific violence while maintaining perfect faith. The character has no internal conflict beyond other people doubting him. Garfield plays him with wide-eyed sincerity that feels more like a performance of piety than actual humanity. Doss becomes a symbol instead of a person. Oldman understands how to play extreme characters. He's portrayed monstrous people, heroic people, and everything in between. But he always finds humanity first. Even when playing Jim Gordon in the Dark Knight trilogy, a genuinely good man in a corrupt city, he gave Gordon doubt, exhaustion, and moral struggle. Heroes become interesting because they struggle with their choices, not because they're perfect. The King's Speech from 2010 follows a predictable formula. Take a historical figure, add a disability or struggle, cast a respected British actor, make it tasteful and inspiring, and win Oscars. Tom Hooper directed it. Colin Firth starred and won Best Picture. Oldman sees it as the perfect example of what's wrong with prestige filmmaking. It's predictable, safe, and designed specifically to win awards rather than tell uncomfortable truths. What Oldman despises about The King's Speech is its calculation disguised as art. Everything about it is engineered for Oscar consideration, the historical setting, British royalty, the overcoming obstacles narrative, the friendship between different classes. It hits every Academy preference without taking a single risk. Firth delivers a perfectly respectable performance of a man with a stutter. And that's all. There's nothing dangerous, surprising, or genuinely revealing about it. Oldman chooses unpredictable work. He's collaborated with directors like Luc Besson, Christopher Nolan, and Alex Cox, filmmakers who take risks and make unexpected choices. Even when playing historical figures like Churchill, he seeks directors who won't make the safe, obvious film. Tom Hooper makes exactly the safe, obvious film every single time. Vice from 2018 is reportedly the film Oldman dislikes most intensely. The movie features Christian Bale playing Dick Cheney as a cartoon villain. Adam McKay directs with apparent smugness, using comedy techniques to demonstrate how evil the subject is. The film shows no interest in understanding Cheney as a human being. It wants to mock him, judge him, and make audiences feel intelligent for agreeing. Oldman sees this as a complete betrayal of what acting should accomplish. What makes Vice particularly objectionable is that Bale doesn't play a person. He plays an attitude. Every scene exists to show how terrible Cheney is. The performance consists entirely of prosthetics and vocal effects with nothing substantial underneath. Bale gained weight and perfected the voice, but where's the human being? Where's the attempt to understand what drives someone to make these choices? McKay and Bale decided that understanding was less important than condemning. Oldman has played politicians and powerful figures throughout his career. In Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, he plays a spy who's been betrayed but never loses his professionalism. He finds humanity in someone who operates in shadows and moral grey zones. Even when Oldman plays villains, he searches for what makes them human. Vice does the opposite. It turns Cheney into a monster and calls that political commentary. These 7 films share common characteristics. They choose safety over risk, impersonation over genuine transformation, and awards recognition over artistic integrity. Oldman's strong reactions to these films ultimately protect what performance should be. Honest, vulnerable, and willing to take chances. His career demonstrates that true transformation requires more than just makeup and accents. It demands finding the vulnerability and truth within a character, discovering their humanity rather than simply recreating their surface appearance. Real acting means taking risks and making choices that could fail, rather than following safe formulas designed to impress awards voters.